You are listening to Christian Audio's production of The Grace Effect, written and read by Kyle Idleman. This audio recording was produced in 2017 by Christian Audio, which owns the copyright. No portion of this recording may be reproduced for any reason without prior written consent from Christian Audio. This edition issued by contractual arrangement with Baker Books, a division of Baker Publishing Group. Originally published in English as The Grace Effect. Copyright 2017 by Kyle Idleman. All rights reserved. Please visit christianaudio.com, facebook.com/christianaudio, or twitter.com/christianaudio to offer your impressions of this work and to explore additional titles. Chapter 1. More Forgiving Than Your Guilt. My son has always taken Halloween trick-or-treating very seriously. He literally maps out the neighborhood, carefully routing his course so that he doesn't miss a single house. This is not about having fun collecting candy. This is a competition to be won. It is a mission to complete. He chooses his costume for mobility purposes. At the end of each competition, he brings his bag of candy in and weighs it. Then he organizes it. He gets this impulse from his mama. He separates all the chocolates and freezes them. He organizes the rest by kind and color. I knew all that. What I didn't know is that he also creates a spreadsheet to track how many pieces of candy he has collected, how many he has eaten, and how many he has left. When he was 9 years old, his bag weighed in at 5.8 pounds. He went to bed that Halloween night, and I did what I normally do. I stole a young child's treasure while he slept. I decided he'd never notice if a few pieces of Laffy Taffy were missing, so I took 3 pieces and destroyed the evidence. The next day, I came home from work, opened the front door, and found he was waiting for me. He said, "Dad, we need to talk." He sat me down and asked, "Is there anything you'd like to tell me?" I was now feeling a little nervous and wondered if my wife sold me out. Then he pulled out a piece of paper with numbers and symbols that I couldn't decode. He looked me in the eye and told me he knew I'd eaten 3 pieces of Laffy Taffy. I never thought I'd get caught, but it turns out he was keeping track of his candy. I would have denied it to my son, but his evidence was strong, and this was not my first offense. Instead of telling him I was sorry, I took the opportunity to point out some details to my son that he may have overlooked. For example, I make his existence possible. Obviously, a few pieces of candy aren't that big of a deal, but here's what I discovered about myself in that moment. When I'm guilty of something, even if it's not a big deal, I have a tendency to be defensive. I do not like to admit guilt. I will passionately defend myself, irrationally justify myself, and almost always minimize the seriousness of what I've done. If that's how I respond to being accused of stealing 3 pieces of Laffy Taffy, chances are I'm not going to respond with much honesty or humility when it comes to the sin in my life. Everything in me wants to deny, compare, minimize, and justify. But as long as I approach my sin with that kind of spirit, I won't be able to experience the power and greatness of God's grace. Our ability to appreciate grace is in direct correlation to the degree to which we acknowledge our need for it. The more I recognize the ugliness of my sin, the more I can appreciate the beauty of God's grace. The Bible holds up a mirror and confronts us with the reality of our sin. Romans 3:23 says, "Everyone has sinned. We all fall short of God's glorious standard." So who does everyone include? Well, everyone includes you, and everyone includes me. We have all sinned. I'm sure you've heard that before. I doubt it's new information. My question is, how do you respond to that information? For a long time, I would read verses like that and think to myself, well, yeah, I mean, technically I've sinned, but I haven't sinned. Here's the way it usually gets worded to me. I'm not that bad. My wife and I were eating together at a restaurant when a woman, probably in her late 50s, came over and introduced herself. She began to tell her story of how she had recently become a Christian. Except she didn't say Christian, she said follower of Jesus. And she pointed out her husband seated at a table across the restaurant. I think she felt like she needed to address why he didn't come over with her to say hello. She explained he wasn't upset about her decision to follow Jesus, but seemed annoyed by it and didn't understand. I smiled and waved at him. He waved,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?